I know what trending is better than anybody in the world. I've been trending my whole life. From the day I was born, I've been trending.
He was a middle child of 5 kids, the son of an immigrant mother from Scotland who ran the Trump home and who was known for her charitable work in the community. But in Trump's telling, his father was his greatest influence.
My father built low and moderate income housing in Brooklyn and Queens.
His dad made a big fortune taking advantage of post-World War II government programs that funded affordable housing complexes during New York's rapid growth. Fred Trump focused on teaching his son the ways of the real estate business, taking young Donald to construction sites from a very young age. He instilled in his son a deep drive to win at anything you do, to be the winner. He would tell Donald that he was raising him to be a king, and that he must become a killer at anything he did.
One of the great choices I ever made in terms of success was the choice of going to NYMA, New York Military Academy.
Trump's father, Fred, obsessed with hard work and discipline, sent Donald to military boarding school to live full-time when he was just 13 years old. And this is where Donald Trump really starts to thrive.
It was a good education. It was a good training. It was a good training. I enjoyed it.
From my reading, this military academy was pretty intense. It was a place where, quote, physical brutality and verbal abuse were tolerated and encouraged, both in hazing new students and physical disciplining from teachers. Trump actually thrived on this kind of intense structure. It helped fire up his competitive nature, and soon he would be getting good grades and winning medals for things like having the cleanest room, or the shiniest shoes, or the best made bed, all while going around telling fellow students that, quote, I'm going to be famous someday. And this is where I want to start to make a list of some of Donald Trump's core beliefs that start to become clear from a young age. This is stuff we'll see over and over again, and I want to make a list. First and foremost, the guy is obsessed with winning. You see this all over his childhood and the rest of his life.
I was a great baseball player.
What position?
First base, catcher, first base.
So teenage Donald Trump spends the school year thriving at military academy, eventually rising to the rank of captain over the rest of the cadets, and then spending summers back in Queens working with his dad, learning the ways of the real estate business. Both of these experiences are very formative and lay the foundation of who he will become and what he will do in his future. That future continues when he goes off to college.
I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words.
Trump gets into college, and he still doesn't know exactly what direction he's going to take. But ultimately, he decided to follow his father's path. He studies economics and business, and this is like during the 70s. There's a war going on in Vietnam. Young men are being recruited, but Trump qualifies for an educational deferment, meaning he gets out of the draft 4 times because he's going to college. Once he got out of school, he would have been eligible for the draft, but he qualified once again for a deferral because of a problem with his heel bone. Though there is some controversy around this because the doctors who wrote Trump's deferral recommendation both lived and or worked in buildings owned by Fred Trump, Donald Trump's dad. And there's some speculation as to whether or not he actually did have a heel spur, or whether or not these doctors were doing Donald Trump's dad a favor by making it so his son wouldn't be sent off to war. Either way, he didn't go to war, and instead starts working for his dad's thriving real estate business, building lower and middle income apartment buildings in Brooklyn and Queens. And then there's this moment in 1964 that shows us another important part of his personality. We'll make it the second item on our list here. There was this huge bridge in New York that had just been completed. It was a massive feat of engineering, connected Brooklyn to like Staten Island or something. Fred Trump was invited to the opening ceremony of this bridge, and he invited his son Donald to be present. Donald sat there in the crowd and noticed that during this celebration of the bridge, the guy who actually designed the bridge was there, but he was just off in the corner. Quote, no one even mentioned his name, recalls Donald. He goes on to say, quote, I realized then and there that if you let people treat you how they want, you'll be made a fool. I don't want to be made anybody's sucker.
They just took us like, for a bunch of suckers.
This is a huge one. That for Donald Trump, it's not just about winning. It's that you must fight for recognition. Okay, so Trump joins his dad's business and he starts really learning the ways. He's only in his 20s, but he quickly runs into some big issues that would redirect the course of his life. At this point, we're in like the 1970s. The Civil Rights Act had just passed, which made it illegal to discriminate against people based on their race. And to enforce this, the US government, the Justice Department, would send agents undercover around to different apartment complexes to make sure that landlords weren't discriminating on who they rented to. This was a routine thing that they were doing, and it eventually happened to the Trump apartments. The DOJ would send in a black person undercover to apply for an apartment, and they quickly started to see a pattern where black or Hispanic people would be told that there was no available units in that complex. And then right after, the DOJ would send in a white person looking for the same type of apartment, only to find that suddenly there was room in that apartment complex. Department of Justice officials did this over and over and started to see a pattern of systematic racial discrimination. And on one day in 1973, Trump and his dad are hit with this lawsuit. The United States of America v. Fred Trump, Donald Trump, and Trump Management, Inc. The DOJ is hitting him with this lawsuit over allegedly discriminating against people based on race or color. 27-year-old Donald Trump was furious. But instead of admitting to these allegations and settling with the DOJ, he fought back. And this is where we get to the next item on our list, which is a pattern we'll start to see, which is that when Donald Trump is called out for something, his response is often to fight no matter what. By countersuing the Department of Justice for $100 million, claiming that they made false statements. Now, the judge dismissed this suit outright, saying that there was no basis for it. But even still, the Trumps fought on. During this time, Trump said that, quote, "I'd rather fight than fold, because as soon as you fold once, you get the reputation of being a folder." So he kept fighting for years, even though there wasn't really a solid defense there. And finally, he was forced to fold. But watch how he does it. Watch what he prioritizes. He strikes a deal with the DOJ that allows him to admit no wrongdoing, but that would require him to make a bunch of changes, like emphasizing that his apartment complexes are open to people of all races, taking out ads in the paper saying that Trump apartments actually do welcome black renters. But he didn't have to admit any guilt, and that is a point of pride for him. Fighting no matter what means never admitting you're wrong, regardless of the circumstances, never apologizing, never folding. It's something that all humans do. They evade responsibility, but Trump has kind of made a brand out of it. It's a pattern that we'll see over and over. But anyway, a bigger point I want to make here is that this whole lawsuit really turned Donald Trump off of his dad's business. He didn't like this whole renting to middle and lower income tenants. It was causing too much trouble for him. Remember, he grew up in a rich New York City family with a reputation and connections. He had a taste for prestige and luxury and wealth and attention, and none of that was out here in Queens. So in his early 30s, he starts to turn his attention across the river toward Manhattan, the epicenter of wealth, prestige, excess, and attention, the high life of New York City. And it wouldn't be long before he was at the top of it all. Over the next decade, Trump used his father's company connections, money, reputation to buy old decaying buildings and give them glitzy renovations.
And we purchased the old Commodore Hotel, and we've reconverted that now into about $110 million Grand Hyatt Hotel, which is...
This includes the purchase of this old department store on Fifth Avenue, atop which he built his signature project, Trump Tower, a 68-story building in Midtown Manhattan. Or was it 58 floors? Trump sort of has a habit of exaggerating the number of floors in his buildings. Anyway, the point is, the city kind of loved it. It was a welcome renovation, a unique style of a building, but no one loved it more than Donald Trump himself because he was winning. In a very short time, he had broken away from his life and business in Queens and built a temple unto himself, a physical expression of his love for opulence and status and exclusivity and attention.
Trump Tower, a creation which holds a shopping area where if you have to ask the prices, you don't belong there.
Marble, gold, columns, waterfalls, mahogany woodwork, chandeliers. The story couldn't be that he had grown up with a rich dad who gave him money and reputation and connections to make a lot of this happen, or that a lot of these deals were made with a combination of tax exemptions, with some fairly shady financial sleight of hand, and at times full-on lies to banks in order to secure funding? That's something we understand now because court rulings have come out to prove how shady a lot of this was. But no. At the time, the story needed to be that he was this smart, hardworking guy. And honestly, there's no doubt about that. But this is where Donald Trump's master storytelling comes into play, showing his ability to subvert the law while crafting a story about his success that people would just eat up. And a big part of that storytelling is reflective of another one of his core beliefs, that people want to be sold a fantasy. I mean, and I'm not speculating on this. In his book, he says that, quote, "I play to people's fantasies. People may not always think big themselves, but they can still get very excited by those who do. That's why little hyperbole never hurts. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular." This is truly one of the most important things on this list, because I think he's right. I think people do like to be sold a fantasy.
I like it. You do? Man's got it made, got everything.
He started crafting this big fantasy image of this rich, no BS talker. He became good at getting in front of the camera, telling the story that you want to hear.
I'm a rather, and you will be surprised, but I can be a rather humble person if I want to be.
And then he launches an airline.
Donald Trump bought the Eastern Shuttle for a price tag of $365 million.
The Eastern Shuttle is no more. Tomorrow morning it will be the Trump Shuttle.
Planes with leather seats, faux marble, gold-plated sinks, carpet that was so thick that the flight attendants couldn't push their drink carts. To which Trump responded, unsurprisingly to anyone, "Tell them to push harder."
We are going to run the best airline in the industry, and we really don't anticipate any problems.
The airline did fail within a couple of years, but remember our rules. We don't admit defeat. He claimed that it was a success. And parts of his real life, he had built a real estate empire.
I win.
You always win.
Trump opens a slew of casinos in New Jersey that help revive Atlantic City. These casinos were over-the-top, excessive luxury, just like everything Trump touched. He helped start an American Football League to compete with the NFL.
And the answer is we are in a form of war right now with the NFL. There's no question about it.
That didn't work out. He launched a vodka brand. I have it right here. Success Distilled. Even though, side note, Donald Trump doesn't and apparently hasn't ever drank alcohol. And then, of course, there's the beauty pageants. A big part of Trump's image was that he was consistently surrounded by women. So he bought up major beauty pageants.
You know, they're standing there with no clue. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible looking women. And so I sort of get away with things like that.
Now, he denies all of this. That is until he thinks he's not being recorded.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss them. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the you can do anything.
But this didn't stop Trump from continuing to rise as an icon of relatable fame and fortune. He continues to put his name on everything, turning, as one Trump Organization executive put it, quote, "from a serious businessman into a cartoon." He's on the cover of Playboy. He creates a real estate investing course that he calls his university, which he eventually got massively sued for. He launches a travel and tourism website, a mortgage company, a home and furnishing brand,
Finally, the same luxury and comfort I demand in my hotels.
a men's clothing line, including ties. Okay, wait, side note, I have a funny story here. When I was a Mormon missionary and I had to wear this every day, the only way to express yourself is with a tie. And so we would trade ties with each other. And the most valuable ties were Trump ties because they were like so, I don't know, they just had weight. They just had brand power associated with them. Yeah. I once traded a Trump tie, I'm not gonna lie. Anyway, moving on. There's Trump Winery, and then he's suddenly launching a steak brand.
When it comes to great steaks, I've just raised the stakes.
Like, we kept finding new things that Trump's name was on, like this urine test kit that is currently on eBay for a couple $100. No, we did not buy it, right? $500. No, thank you. Oh my God, we almost pulled the trigger on that one. Nope. And then, of course, this literal water called Trump Ice with the guy's face on it. And just back in like the 80s, most people would see all of these products and think that like Trump owned all of it, that he had this massive empire with dozens and dozens of products. Leasing his name allowed him to build an empire of products but without using his own cash. And when these businesses failed, as nearly all of them eventually did, Trump could pocket his profits, cut ties, without facing the fallout of the business folding. But by the early 2000s, his brand was kind of losing its luster. His business empire starts to kind of decline. His casinos were filing for bankruptcy, and his glory days seemed to be maybe over. But that would change in 2004 when he was able to once again monetize his persona, this time on a reality TV show. The showman in the spotlight, entertaining people while also building his brand and his image as a ruthless businessman.
You're fired.
Oh my God, oh my God.
The Apprentice with Trump lasted for 14 seasons and laid the foundation of what would happen next. His launch into running for president. He started to insert himself into politics more and more, like in 2008, when he challenged whether or not then candidate Barack Obama was actually an American citizen. He is fueled by an endless desire to win and be recognized for it, and he had a pretty tried and true playbook to do it. So in 2015, Trump descended an escalator and threw himself into the spotlight that he knows so well. When he was asked later why he decided to run for president, he said, quote, "Because here's the way I look at it. I have so many rich friends, and nobody knows who they are. You must fight for recognition, or you'll end up as someone else's sucker." So he wielded his tireless work ethic and his ability to inflame and divide and lie and lie and lie some more and bully all the way into the limelight. After years of practice on smaller stages, he entered the largest stage of them all and expertly sold the fantasy of being the everyman, despite having never lived like anything but a king. And it worked. He won. He didn't get the most votes, but he still won fair and square. And he became the president of the United States for 4 years. And then, when he lost, he did what he's always done, what we could have predicted he would do. He fought it to the death, attacking the rules of the system that he had lost in, selling his lies to an angry population who believed them, and dealing a blow to the foundations of our fragile democracy. And tens of millions of people continued to love it. There's a reason why Republicans who understand how power works are scared that he's back, that he's running for president again. Dick Cheney, the epitome of a conservative Republican, said that, quote, "In our nation's 248-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters rejected him. He can never be trusted with power again." He's one of the many Republicans, including his previous vice president, who understand how our country works, how delicate our system is, and who see clearly how this person does things. And it scares them. It scares them for the very existence of our country. This is not typical political fighting. This is weird. This is different. This is a genuine worry for the system itself. A system that now, thanks to a new Supreme Court ruling, gives a sitting president immunity from the law, right at a time when indictments from government prosecutors are racking up against Donald Trump. Not because the deep state is out to get him, not because the Democrats have coordinated this, but because he has broken the law, and our system is working to make him stand accountable.
Today, an indictment was unsealed, charging Donald J. Trump with conspiring to defraud the United States, conspiring to disenfranchise voters, and conspiring and attempting to obstruct an official proceeding.
As Trump runs again for the White House, I've been seeing these same ingredients play out, these beliefs, these behaviors. He has a tried and true playbook, and he'll use it over and over again. After studying his life and watching him lead my country for 4 years, it feels clear to me that Donald Trump will continue to pursue this playbook, these beliefs, this lifelong ambition to win, to not be anybody's sucker, to win and to get recognition for it, recognition that he so deeply and nakedly craves. This is what he's been doing his whole life, to win at all costs, to do whatever it takes. And my genuine worry, like that of Dick Cheney's, is that this time he's willing to rip apart the entire country in the process.